Good afternoon. I'm Jonah Cummings from the CNY Lyme and Tick-Borne Disease Alliance, and I'm joined today by Kelly Nugent. Thanks for chatting with me today, Kelly.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this.
So, Kelly, about a year ago, your mother unfortunately passed away from complications due to a chronic and severe case of neurological Lyme disease. Can you tell me a little bit about her battle with this disease and how it affected your family?
Well, like a lot of people, she started with a bullseye rash, and went to the doctor. Growing up, Lyme disease was a thing in Northwest Jersey. So went to the doctor. We always thought not much of it. You take antibiotics, go on with your life. And that's what she did. She took the antibiotics and really didn't think about it again. My dad didn't think about it again. The doctor did not suggest that she should follow up. And then 2 full years later, so she had these seizures that would include olfactory hallucinations. She would smell something that she had never smelled in her life, like that doesn't actually exist. And then she'd have a seizure and faint and pass out. And so she didn't know why. She didn't know what was happening. So she ended up in the hospital for 3 days, and they found, they did every test on her brain and heart that they could think of, and nothing was showing up. So somebody finally thought to go back through her files and saw the Lyme diagnosis from 2 years previously, and that was it. She still had Lyme, and looking back, she realized that she did have some memory issues that were showing up, but she was also going through menopause at the time. So she just thought, I'm just aging, or I'm going through menopause, I'm forgetful. She had friends who were like, oh yeah, take this vitamin or whatever. And she hadn't really thought much of it, and obviously until the seizures. And so that's where she was when she was retiring. And it became difficult pretty quickly at that point, because I know she wanted, her dream when she was retired was to work at Fairview Lake Camp, which is like a camp right up the road from our house, in the summer with kids. And she found one day that she was partnered up with a girl who had Down syndrome, and she was supposed to just, make sure that this girl kind of stuck with the group, but she was a little slower than everyone else. And my mom found, all of a sudden, she was in the forest with the girl, and the girl, didn't know where she was, but my mom didn't know either. Like her entire memory of the hike was erased all of a sudden. And she realized, she's like, I can't even do this job. Like, I can't lead a hike. I can't let somebody rely on me. And, that started to happen with babysitting too. She had, in retirement, she was going to be my sister's kind of daycare provider. And gradually my sister had to gradually she wasn't able to do that anymore. My sister has had 3 kids. My mom was able to watch the first kid, but then she herself started having problems like children. She would leave the stove on, or kind of forget what she was doing, or get overwhelmed, or get confused. And so she couldn't babysit anymore. So it was really the neurological effects that were strongest. And, that happened over the years. My dad started trying to bring her everywhere, because, okay, so there's 2 things you have to deal with, right? They're like the neurological symptoms, but then also getting rid of the Lyme. The Lyme was still there because her antibiotics were not working. So, they tried every antibiotic out there. I don't have the full list, but, multiple times she had a port put in her arm, but she had lots of reactions to them. So sometimes she couldn't stay on them very long. And my dad started driving her everywhere, to New Haven and down to South Jersey. And they went all over the place looking for specialists that could help with the neurological symptoms, but also with the infection itself. And, it's just that so many doctors, they're just trying to figure it out themselves. And of course, problems with the insurance companies, not believing that neurological or chronic Lyme is real. So he ended up, my dad, this is, spending so much money out of pocket with alternative options, going to holistic practitioners, some of whom took advantage of him. We came across people who promised the most ridiculous things. Like I had a chiropractor up here who's like, I can heal your mom of Lyme disease. He's a chiropractor, right? But you get people like that who take advantage of the mystery, the fact that we don't know everything that's going on. And I know there was an office that claimed to be associated with Columbia University. I still don't know if they actually are, but that charged my parents $6,000 basically to make my mom a test subject. And they gave her almost nothing in return. They just, made her a guinea pig, took all her data, charged my dad $6,000 cash, and then did nothing to support them or give them good advice. But you're in that situation where you can do, you're just looking for answers. Then I'd say that's like the first 5 years. And the second 5 years, we got into just, something, whatever combination of holistic medicine and, IV antibiotics, something did end the infection. But, that was like 5-6 years or more. And so she was left with lots of neurological damage that then somehow had a momentum of its own, in brain scans, she had what they called a dead spot in her mind. And that or in her brain, it caught, her brain degenerated into something that became like a case of dementia, Alzheimer's, and progressed on its own. But it was caused by the Lyme. She was only 67 when she died. As far as advice for families, I think most of my advice comes from very early and very late. Like very early, just like we all check ourselves for ticks every day now. Like we, every day. But in terms of coping with it, I feel like it wasn't real. I don't think we had many doctors that helped us understand how it would progress. And again, maybe because they don't know, like everything's so new. So I feel like we were always one step behind in adjusting to the new reality. So I feel like at some level we were in a denial that meant that we were never like the right emotional fit where my mom was. I think we spent a lot of time thinking she was going to get better, or like we could like teach her to remember something, or like teach her to use her brain in a different way. Like I think we always thought there was going to be a solution, and there wasn't. So I think, looking back, even when when the hospice nurse declared that she was in hospice, I was like telling the secretary at school, like, this lady says my mom's in hospice. So I guess you should know that I might need a sub, but that doesn't make any sense to me. It seemed weird. Like, how can you go from Lyme to hospice? So, I think if I were to give people advice, it would be more about like accepting that the person might not get better, and what they need is quality of life that meshes with where they are, right? Whatever you can do to make their day better, even if they don't remember, that they just said something 5 minutes ago, well, who cares? Like, go with it. Let them tell the same story 7 times. Like, just make the day nice, because you can't reverse it, at least not yet.
The scary complications of this, I feel like a lot of it comes from, like you were saying, the unknown of it all. When it progresses like that, if there's not enough research done, which there isn't, there's not enough funding put into it, then we have cases like this. And I'm so sorry to hear about what you and your family have had to go through, seriously. But I'm hoping that more stories like this, they come to the surface, and there's more and more every day, and more research being done every day, that hopefully these cases become less and less, and we learn from example. But thank you so much for sharing your story with me.